What do you know about Sri Lanka? Surely the first thing that comes to mind is Ceylon tea. But are you ready to discover a completely different Sri Lanka? This island is not only home to tea plantations, but also to the ancient fortress of Sigiriya, shrouded in mystery and legend. It is perhaps the cradle of humanity, and it is a country that has had a colossal influence on Southeast Asia. Is it true that the first humans originated in Sri Lanka? What else does this amazing country hide? Are you ready to immerse yourself in this amazing world? Then let's begin. If we are to trust the legends, then Sri Lanka has played a huge role in the history of the creation of the world from its very beginning. And it would be a great idea to familiarize ourselves with the legacy they have left us. This amazing country is full of many mysteries and secrets. Perhaps as I discuss this, we can try to solve at least one of them together. The prayers of Adam and Eve. Delving into local legends, we come across the claim that it was here, on this tropical island, that Adam and Eve found their final resting place. If this version is true, then we can confidently extend the history of Sri Lanka to the moment of creation, making it the cradle of humanity. After all, according to legend, the progenitors of the human race were expelled from Eden and lived elsewhere. Israeli beliefs point to the cave of Machpelah near Hebron, Palestine, as their burial place. But Sri Lanka puts forward its own version, insisting that Adam and Eve rest in the north of the country, near Jaffna. And, according to eyewitness accounts, the burial mounds there are so enormous that it suggests the progenitors were unusually tall, about 6 meters. This suggests that the mythical Adam and Eve, who lived for over 1,000 years according to the Bible, may have been not only long-lived but also giants. Perhaps in ancient times, when the world was young, people lived longer and were taller, and the laws of nature were quite different. Sri Lanka, therefore, becomes not just an island, but a bridge connecting our world with the age of myths and legends, when humanity may have been quite different. Sigiriya. Have you ever heard of Sigiriya? It's not just a rock. It's a monumental testament to human ambition and ancient grandeur, towering above the lush jungles of Sri Lanka. Imagine a gigantic reddish-brown boulder jutting abruptly from the surrounding plain. At its summit, as if carved from stone, sits an ancient palace fortress, Sigiriya, which means Lion Rock in Sinhalese. This UNESCO World Heritage Site attracts attention with its unique architecture and enigmatic history. Sigiriya is more than just a single stone structure. It is an entire complex of structures, including gardens, fountains, terraces, and, of course, the palace itself, built atop the cliff. Finally, at the very top, you'll be treated to a breathtaking view of the surrounding area and the ruins of the ancient palace, reminiscent of the former glory of Sri Lanka's rulers. Sigiriya is more than just a historical monument. It is a place where natural beauty and human genius intertwine. It is a symbol of ambition and power, and proof that even the wildest dreams can be realized in stone. It continues to captivate the imagination and attract researchers, artists, and simply curious travelers from around the world. When visiting Sigiriya, tour guides present a widespread but poorly substantiated version of the historical events of the 5th century. According to this version, the monarch's illegitimate son, considered the initiator of major construction and irrigation projects in Sri Lanka, murdered his father to seize his property and power. Subsequently, assuming the title of Kasap and fearing retribution, he moved the capital to Sigiriya, where a powerful fortress was quickly erected. As evidence, tour guides show a grotto near Cobra Rock, where this story is supposedly told. However, it should be noted that this interpretation is based on a single reference in an Indian source, written several centuries later, which makes no mention of construction work. The official story says Kasapa built all of this in just 8, or 18, there's some debate, years. But if you imagine that only about 100,000 people lived in Sri Lanka at the time, and there was a civil war, and in some places, tribes lived as if in the Stone Age until the 20th century, then how could they, in such a short time, dig kilometers of canals through jungle and granite, build fountains, and cover the walls with porcelain? That's millions of stones and bricks. And then, for 1,500 years, everyone forgot about Sigiriya. Nothing like it was ever built again. How is that possible? Perhaps Kasapa wanted to hide in some cursed place, prepare for a siege. But to build Sigiriya in such a short time? Unlikely. But he could have scratched into the cave that it was his creation, perhaps. Although that raises questions. All this makes one wonder. Was all this really created by people? In general, besides the official version, there is another opinion from a Sri Lankan art historian. He says that Sigiriya was built by followers of the Mahayana sect, who worshipped the goddess Tara. and that it is she who is depicted in these famous frescoes, although, frankly, this doesn't quite fit with religious rules. Sri Lankans, of course, are currently trying to tie it all together, their history, their archaeology, and all these theories, but so far it's all just not clicking. Therefore, other theories are gaining popularity. That Sigiriya wasn't built by humans at all, but by some ancient civilization that we've lost. Interestingly, some see features of the Gardens of Eden in Sigiriya, others see similarities with Machu Picchu and Sacsayhuaman, and still others see similarities with the underwater complex of Yonaguni. All these parallels, frankly, are no less worthy of attention than the official version involving Kassap and the Buddhist hermits. But I'm particularly intrigued by one hypothesis, which has provoked a strong rejection from local scholars and guides. Sigiriya is none other than the legendary Lanka from the Ramayana, the mythical capital of Ravana. This theory certainly deserves a separate, detailed examination. So, the Ramayana is like Harry Potter for 3 billion Asians. Well, everyone absolutely loves it. But, surprise, in Sri Lanka, where all these events supposedly took place, they absolutely loathe it. And this has been the case since the Middle Ages, and in the 20th century, this dislike only intensified. Why? Well, firstly, because of that main villain, Ravana. He's a Rakshasa demon, a terrifying villain who wanted to conquer the entire world, and he's also the king of the island of Lanka. And secondly, because of these Rakshasas, horrible dark black monsters who supposedly do nothing but evil and feed on human flesh. You'll agree, it's not very pleasant to associate yourself with them. And by the way, Sri Lankans are darker in skin color than even Hindus. So let's figure out what this Ramayana is really about. In ancient times, a certain king of monsters and Rakshasas named Ravana began to subject himself and his brothers to asceticism and penance, for which he received all sorts of gifts from the gods, and thanks to his cunning and meanness, including invincible weapons, the enormous flying chariot Pushpaka, invincibility, and immortality. But he used all this not for good, but for the enslavement of all 3 worlds. And thanks to his gift from Brahma, no one could harm him. Not beast, not monster, not asura, not god. Only man was left out of this long list, apparently due to his insignificance. The gods took advantage of this, particularly Vishnu, who reincarnated as Prince Rama. Rama grew up, slaying monstrous Rakshasas, and married the beautiful Princess Sita. But instead of a kingdom, he was forced into exile for several years. At some point, his wife was discovered by Ravana himself, who, enraptured by her, immediately kidnapped her and carried her off on his flying Pushpaka to his palace. Inconsolable, Rama cannot find her until he encounters 5 monkeys in exile. He helps the monkeys reclaim their kingdom, and in return, they begin searching for Sita. Eventually, the Monkey King's general, the divine Hanuman, finds her languishing in captivity, and the Vanara army sets out with Rama to liberate the island. Lanka is on an island. The monkeys build a bridge, the remains of which can still be seen on Google Maps between India and Ceylon, an outdated name. They invade Lanka and besiege Ravana's fortress. A monstrous, epic battle ensues. The Rakshasas and Ravana perish. Sita is ultimately freed. The poem is full of unexpected twists and turns, and there are dozens of variations yet, aside from the details. They are all very similar. And so, standing on the summit of Sigiriya and looking out over the surrounding area, lines from the Ramayana come to mind. Could it be that small pointed mountain was brought from the Himalayas by Hanuman to rescue Lakshmana? By the way, there are 2 places in Sri Lanka where endemic Himalayan plants inexplicably grow, but I haven't been there myself. And wasn't that lake on the southern side of the moat formed by the fall of Ravana's fallen giant brother, Kushkubera? All of Sigiriya's numerous underground chambers have been virtually unexplored and were sealed off decades ago. So they're inaccessible, and perhaps Kumbhurhana is still sleeping there, and God forbid you wake him. It's no wonder the local population avoided Sigiriya for centuries. How was Sigiriya built? There's no answer to this question. Here's why. 2 types of materials were used in its construction, located 260 and 310 kilometers, respectively, from the Sigiriya site. Okay, so let's say there weren't impenetrable jungles back then, and transporting stones to the rock was feasible. But how were they lifted? 200 meters with a heavy load isn't easy, considering modern technology didn't exist back then. Scientists believe the ancient builders constructed ladders and scaffolding for the construction. Can you imagine a 200-meter ladder or similar structure, and to be able to carry blocks along it? The palace itself was a majestic structure, complete with a pool and outbuildings. In total, approximately 3.5 million blocks were used in its construction. They were used to build not only the walls, but also the columns, the bottom of the artificial reservoir, the terraces, the total number of buildings, 14 annexes, and the palace. Alas, no plans for the original appearance of this wonder of the world remain. However, it can be said that chisels and hammers alone weren't enough to build Sigiriya. As for official historians, they claim the opposite. Well, I'm no expert, but it seems to me that building such a palace using the traditional methods on which the official conclusions are based would have been ineffective. Most likely, the ancient masters possessed some clever technologies that have been lost over the past 1,500 years. That's an interesting story, friends. What do you think about it? Who really built Sigiriya?